A pair of tiny black twins beg a Hell's Angel for help. And the moment they show him a crumpled photo, he instantly bursts into tears. He's a man who spent years running from his past, a past filled with violence, guilt, and a daughter he could never save. But when these trembling kids whisper, "Mommy said find the man with the angel on his jacket," everything inside him shatters. Because the woman in their photo, their mommy, is his daughter, the one he buried years ago. Now, hunted by the same men who took her, he has to protect the children she died saving, even if it means facing the demons he swore he'd left behind. As danger closes in, old sins rise from the ashes, and one broken man must choose. Will he keep running, or finally become the angel they believe he is? Can a man damned by his past become a hero for someone else's future? Drop a comment below and share which part of the world you're tuning in from today. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe for more. The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly on the weathered asphalt of Route 66, its heat waves dancing like spirits across the empty desert highway. Rider Reaper Cole hunched over his rumbling Harley, the familiar vibrations doing nothing to calm the storm of emotions churning inside him. His leather vest felt heavier than usual, the tattooed angel wings across its back a constant reminder of everything he'd lost. The gas gauge needle hovered dangerously close to empty, forcing him to pull into a sun-bleached station that had seen better days. Paint peeled from its walls like dead skin, and a rusty bell chimed weakly as he rolled up to the pump. Just another nameless stop in another forgotten town. The kind of place that matched the emptiness he'd been carrying since Tanya died. As he filled his tank, movement caught his eye. Near a dented trash bin, two small figures huddled together like lost birds. His heart skipped a beat when he got a better look. They were just kids, African-American twins, a boy and girl who couldn't be older than 6 years old. Their feet were bare, clothes dusty, and their eyes held a look he recognized all too well. The same look he'd seen in his daughter's eyes when she'd hit rock bottom. The boy's hand gripped his sister's tightly as he took a hesitant step forward. His voice trembled, but carried clearly across the empty lot. Mommy said find the man with the angel on his jacket. Ryder felt his blood turn to ice water in his veins. He shook his head, trying to clear it. Listen, kids, you need to find a cop or something. I can't help you. But the little girl was already moving, reaching into her pocket with determined fingers. She pulled out a crumpled photograph, holding it up like an offering. Ryder's hands shook as he took it, and the world seemed to tilt beneath his feet. Tanya's face smiled up at him from the worn paper. His beautiful daughter, looking healthier than he'd seen her, in years before she died. Her arms were wrapped around these same two children, all three of them beaming at the camera like they shared the world's best secret. Can't be, he whispered, his throat tight. This isn't... But the proof was right there in his trembling hands. The night settled around them as Ryder found himself sitting on the curb, his massive frame dwarfing the tiny figures on either side of him. The boy, Hunter, he'd said his name was, spoke in quiet, careful words that seemed too old for his young face. Mommy Tanya took care of us, he explained, his sister Mila nodding beside him. She made us pancakes and read us stories and said angels were watching over us. Mila's small voice chimed in. But then the bad men came, the ones who hurt people. Her lower lip quivered. Mommy Tanya told us to hide in the special place and not come out until it was quiet. She said if something bad happened, we had to find the man with the angel wings. She showed us your picture, Hunter added. Said you were her daddy, and that you'd help us if we needed it. Ryder stared at the photograph again, his vision blurring. His daughter, his lost, troubled daughter, had been caring for these children. She'd found her way to something good, something pure, and he hadn't even known. The weight of it crushed his chest until he could barely breathe. A sob tore from his throat, raw and broken, years of guilt and grief pouring out as he clutched the photo to his chest. Without hesitation, tiny arms wrapped around him from both sides. Mila pressed her face against his leather vest, while Hunter patted his back with a small hand, offering comfort with the pure, unconditional love that only children possess. They sat there together as the stars emerged in the desert sky, these two innocent souls and a broken old biker, connected by the memory of a woman who'd found redemption in loving them. As the first rays of dawn painted the horizon in shades of pink and gold, Ryder made a silent promise. To Tanya, to these children, to himself, he wouldn't run anymore. He wouldn't abandon these kids who'd somehow found their way to him through his daughter's love. Whatever came next, whatever dangers lurked in their past, he would face it. These children were his responsibility now, a chance at redemption he never thought he'd get. Looking down at their trusting faces, Ryder felt something crack open inside his heart. A space he'd kept locked away since losing Tanya. These kids needed him, and maybe, just maybe, he needed them too. "Come on," he said gruffly, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "Let's find you both something to eat." As they stood, Mila slipped her tiny hand into his calloused one, while Hunter pressed close to his other side. The weight of their trust settled on his shoulders like a mantle, heavy but somehow right. The morning sun cast their shadows long across the parking lot, a towering figure flanked by two small ones, walking together, toward whatever tomorrow might bring. For the first time in years, Ryder felt the stirring of something he'd thought was long dead. Hope. The desert sun crept over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Ryder watched as the twins huddled together on the concrete curb, their small frames shivering in the cool morning air. His heart ached at the sight. "Let's get you kids something warm to eat," he said, his gruff voice softer than usual. He shrugged off his leather vest and wrapped it around their shoulders. The angel wings on the back seemed to embrace them both. The bell above the diner door chimed as they entered. The place was nearly empty, just a sleepy waitress wiping down counters and an old trucker nursing a coffee in the corner. The vinyl booths were cracked, and the linoleum floor had seen better days, but the smell of fresh coffee and pancakes filled the air. "3 specials," Ryder told the waitress, settling the twins into a booth. "Extra syrup for the little ones." Mila's eyes lit up at the sight of the pancakes when they arrived, perfectly round and steaming. Hunter was more hesitant, watching Ryder carefully before picking up his fork. "It's okay," Ryder said gently. "Eat up. You're safe here." As the children ate, Ryder listened to their story unfold in pieces between bites of pancake. Tanya had found them 6 months ago, they said, when they were living with a man who claimed to be their father, but wasn't. "He was mean," Mila whispered, her fork pushing pieces of pancake around her plate. "He hurt people, made them do bad things." Hunter reached for his sister's hand. "Mommy Tanya saw us crying outside one day. She took us away that night, said we didn't have to be scared anymore." Ryder's hands clenched into fists under the table. A trafficker. His daughter had rescued these children from a human trafficker. Pride and pain warred in his chest. "She showed us your picture," Hunter continued, pulling the worn photograph from his pocket again. "Said if anything happened to her, we should find you. Look for the man with the angel wings, just like in the picture." "She was using another name," Mila added. "Said it was to keep us safe, but she told us your real name was Ryder Cole." The revelation hit him like a physical blow. His daughter had been alive, living under an alias, trying to protect these children. While he'd been drowning in guilt and grief, she'd been fighting to save others. The weight of his failure to find her, to help her, threatened to crush him. "I'm sorry," he whispered, more to Tanya's memory than to the twins. "I should have been there." After breakfast, Ryder led them back to his Harley. He couldn't leave them here, but he couldn't safely carry 2 small children on the back of his motorcycle either. His eyes fell on an old maintenance shed behind the gas station. 20 minutes of scrounging yielded some rope, metal straps, and an old lawn chair. It wasn't pretty, but with some creative engineering and a prayer, he managed to fashion a makeshift sidecar, securing it firmly to the bike's frame. "It's like a chariot!" Mila exclaimed, clapping her hands as Ryder helped them both into the jury-rigged contraption. "Hold on tight," he instructed, tucking a blanket around them. "We're heading to Tucson. There's people there who can help us figure this out." The sound of children's laughter was foreign to his ears as they started down the highway, the desert stretching endlessly before them. The twins' delight at the wind in their faces and the rumble of the engine beneath them cracked something open in Ryder's chest. A small warmth he thought had died with Tanya. The sun climbed higher as they rode, casting long shadows across the empty road. Ryder checked his mirrors regularly. Old habits die hard. The third time he spotted the black SUV, something cold settled in his gut. It was too far back to make out details, but it had been there for miles, maintaining the same distance. "Just being paranoid," he muttered to himself. Years of looking over his shoulder had left their mark, but then Hunter tugged on his sleeve, his small face pale with fear. "That's him," the boy whispered, pointing at the mirrors. "The man who took Mommy." Ryder's heart thundered in his chest. Without hesitation, he twisted the throttle, the Harley's engine roaring as they accelerated. Dust billowed behind them like a storm cloud, but in his mirrors, the black SUV kept pace, growing larger with each passing moment. Ryder's knuckles turned white as he gripped the handlebars, veering the Harley sharply off the highway onto a narrow dirt road. The makeshift sidecar rattled, but held firm as they bounced across the uneven terrain. Behind them, the black SUV's tires squealed against the asphalt as it tried to match their sudden turn. "Hold on tight, kids!" Ryder shouted over the engine's roar. The twins clutched each other, their small faces pressed together as dust whipped around them. He knew these back roads from his outlaw days, twisted paths that snaked through the desert like dried-up riverbeds. The Harley danced between scattered rocks and scrub brush, while the SUV struggled to navigate the rough terrain. Each turn kicked up clouds of red dust that hung in the air like a protective curtain behind them. "Are they still there?" Mila called out, her voice trembling. Ryder checked his mirrors. The dust cloud had swallowed the SUV, but he wouldn't take chances. "We're not stopping to find out, sweetheart." They rode for hours, the sun beating down mercilessly. Ryder chose paths at random, down dry washes, through narrow canyons, anywhere a bulky SUV would have trouble following. The twins had fallen silent, exhausted from the heat and constant motion. Their water was running low, and the temperature gauge on his bike was creeping toward the red zone. Just when he was starting to worry they'd have to stop, a sign appeared through the heat waves rising off: the desert floor. The neon tubes spelled out the Oasis Rest Stop in faded pink letters, though only half of them still flickered to life. Behind it stood a weathered 2-story motel, its white paint long since surrendered to the desert sun. Ryder pulled into the empty parking lot, gravel crunching under his tires. The place looked deserted except for an old pickup truck parked near the office. As he helped the twins out of the sidecar, the office door creaked open. A woman emerged, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore practical clothes, jeans and a faded denim shirt, but something in her bearing spoke of dignity and purpose. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp and kind. "Well now," she said, walking toward them with unhurried steps. "Looks like you've had quite a journey." "We're just passing through," Ryder said gruffly, positioning himself between the woman and the children. "Need a room for the night if you've got one." The woman's eyes took in everything. The improvised sidecar, the dust coating all three of them, the way Hunter and Mila huddled close to Ryder's legs. "I'm Sister June Thompson," she said, "though these days most folks just call me June." She knelt down to the twins' eye level. "You two look like you could use some dinner and a cool place to rest." Mila peeked out from behind Ryder. "You're a sister? Like at church?" June smiled. "I was, for many years. Now I just try to help people who need it." She stood, meeting Ryder's wary gaze. "Room 12 is ready. No charge, the Lord provides, and so do I." Before Ryder could protest, she was already walking toward the room, keys jingling in her hand. The twins followed, drawn by her gentle presence, while Ryder grabbed their few belongings from the bike. The room was simple but clean, with 2 beds and an ancient window unit that struggled but managed to push out cool air. June disappeared and returned with a tray of sandwiches, fresh fruit, and 3 tall glasses of ice water. "Eat up," she told them. "The kitchen's always open here at the Oasis." As the twins devoured their sandwiches, June sat quietly in the corner chair, her hands folded in her lap. Ryder noticed her lips moving slightly now and then, and realized she was praying. Something about her presence made the knot of tension in his shoulders begin to ease, despite his instinct to remain on guard. After dinner, the twins could barely keep their eyes open. Ryder helped them wash up and tucked them into one of the beds. They fell asleep almost instantly, their small hands still clasped together. Unable to rest, Ryder stepped outside into the cooling desert night. He leaned against the wall beside their door, pulling out the worn photograph of Tanya. The desert wind had picked up, making the neon sign buzz and flicker, casting pink shadows across the crumpled paper in his hands. Something caught his eye, a torn corner of the photo he hadn't noticed before. Looking closer, he could make out part of a message in Tanya's handwriting. "Trust June." His heart stopped for a moment as the implications hit him. The motel? This woman. It couldn't be coincidence. Footsteps approached, and he looked up to find June walking toward him, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. Her face was illuminated by the pulsing neon, serene and knowing. "She told me you'd come one day," June said softly, holding out one of the cups. The desert morning brought a stillness that seemed to hold its breath. Ryder found June in the motel's small kitchen, already brewing coffee and mixing pancake batter. The twins were still sleeping, worn out from their journey. "They're good children," June said, pouring him a cup of coffee. "Tanya did right by them, even if it cost her everything." Ryder's hands tightened around the warm mug. "You knew my daughter?" June nodded, her eyes distant with memory. 2 years ago, she showed up here in the middle of the night with those babies. They were so small then, barely 4 years old. She was scared, but determined. June poured batter onto the griddle, the sweet smell filling the kitchen. "She stayed here for 3 months, trying to gather evidence against the men who'd been trafficking children." The coffee turned bitter in Ryder's mouth. He knew about those operations, had even worked security for some of the drug runs back in his Hell's Angels days. The thought that his own daughter had died trying to stop something he'd once been part of made him sick to his stomach. "She had documents," June continued, flipping the pancakes. "Photos, names, locations. Said she was building a case for the police." She paused, looking directly at Ryder. "She wanted to make things right, just like her daddy taught her about angels watching over people." Ryder pushed back from the table, guilt and fury warring in his chest. I never taught her nothing about angels. I taught her how to run from the law and trust no one. Look where that got her. No, June said firmly. You taught her about protection, about standing up for those who can't defend themselves. Why else would she risk everything for those children? Before Ryder could respond, small footsteps padded into the kitchen. Hunter and Mila appeared, rubbing sleep from their eyes. Their faces lit up at the sight of pancakes, and June quickly set places for them at the table. While they ate, the twins pulled crayons and paper from their small backpack. They drew picture after picture, motorcycles with angel wings, stick figures holding hands, hearts and stars scattered across the pages. This is you, Mila said, holding up a drawing of a figure in black with wings. And this is us, and Mommy Tanya in heaven. You won't leave us, will you? Hunter asked quietly, his dark eyes serious. Mommy said you'd keep us safe. Ryder's throat tightened. I promise, he managed to say, taking their drawings with trembling hands. Later that afternoon, Ryder drove into the small town near the motel to buy supplies. As he loaded diapers, clothes, and snacks into his saddlebags, movement caught his eye. A black SUV cruised past the store, moving too slowly to be casual. His heart rate spiked as he recognized the vehicle from the highway. He rushed back to his bike, the supplies forgotten. The SUV circled the block, its tinted windows revealing nothing about its occupants. Ryder gunned the engine, taking back roads to the motel, dust billowing behind him. When he burst into their room, the twins were playing cards with June. They jumped at his entrance, but June remained calm, studying his face. They found us, he said, checking the windows. We need to move. No, June said firmly. Running won't solve this. You need to call the authorities. Ryder paced the small room, his mind racing. He still had contacts, good ones. There was one man in particular, Marcus Chen, who'd left the club years ago to join the FBI. They'd stayed in touch, helping each other occasionally with information. As darkness fell, Ryder pulled out his phone. Marcus's number was still there, unused for months but memorized. His finger hovered over the call button. Headlights suddenly swept across the parking lot, painting yellow stripes across the walls. The black SUV rolled to a stop outside their room, engine idling. Get in the bathroom, Ryder whispered to June and the twins. He pulled his revolver from his waistband, checking the chambers. Lock the door. No, Mila whimpered, clinging to his leg. Don't go. He knelt down, looking both children in the eyes. You trust me, right? They nodded, tears trailing down their cheeks. June gathered them close, leading them to the bathroom. The lock clicked into place as Ryder moved to the door. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his promise to these children, to his daughter's memory. The metal of his gun was cold against his palm as he stepped out into the darkness. The motel's neon sign cast an eerie red glow across the parking lot as Ryder stepped outside. His boots crunched on gravel, and the desert wind carried the scent of creosote and danger. The black SUV's engine cut off, leaving an unsettling silence broken only by the buzz of electricity from the flickering sign above. Two figures emerged from the vehicle, their leather jackets reflecting the neon light. The patches on their backs made Ryder's heart skip. The Iron Vulture's emblem, a metal-winged bird clutching a chain. He'd worn that same patch for 15 years. Well, well, a familiar voice drawled. If it ain't the Reaper himself. Snake stepped into the light, his weathered face twisted in a mocking smile. The nickname had always suited him. Thin, coiled, ready to strike. The other man hung back, hand resting on his hip where Ryder knew a weapon would be. You're a long way from home, Snake, Ryder said, keeping his voice steady despite the fury building in his chest. Snake spat on the ground. Could say, "The same about you, brother." Or should I say, "Grandpa?" He laughed, the sound ugly in the night air. "You know whose kids those are, don't you?" Ryder's stomach clenched. "They're my daughters." "Oh, they're more than that?" Snake moved closer, boots scraping across the gravel. "Big Vic's been looking for his property. See? Your precious Tanya? She took more than just his kids when she ran. $50,000 and a whole lot of paperwork that don't belong to her." The pieces clicked into place. Tanya's desperate mission, the evidence she'd gathered, the money she must have stolen to fund her escape. Big Vic, the Iron Vulture's leader, had always been cruel, but trafficking children? The man Ryder had once called brother had sunk lower than he'd imagined. "They're not property," Ryder growled. "They're children." "They're leverage," Snake corrected. "And you're gonna hand them over nice and easy, for old time's sake." Behind him, Ryder heard the bathroom window slide open slightly. June was listening, probably already on the phone with 911. He needed to keep them talking, give her time. "You always were Vic's lapdog," Ryder said, taking a step forward. "Still doing his dirty work while he keeps his hands clean?" Snake's face darkened. "At least I ain't a traitor. Your daughter? She got what was coming to her, just like you're about to." Something snapped inside Ryder. The rage he'd been holding back exploded like a dam breaking. He launched himself at Snake, his fist connecting with the younger man's jaw before either could draw their weapons. They crashed into the SUV's hood, trading brutal blows. Snake was quicker, but Ryder had years of street fighting experience and a father's fury behind every punch. He felt Snake's nose crack under his knuckles, heard the satisfying crunch. The second man rushed forward, pulling a knife. Ryder caught the glint of steel in the neon light and twisted, using Snake as a shield. The blade caught Snake's arm instead, drawing a howl of pain. Ryder seized the moment of confusion to draw his revolver. The second man froze, knife dripping with his partner's blood. "Get out," Ryder commanded, his voice deadly calm. "Tell Vic if he wants to settle this, he comes himself. The kids stay with me." Glass shattered behind them. The motel's front window, victim of a wild punch thrown during the fight. Inside, he heard Mila scream. Snake scrambled to his feet, blood streaming from his nose. "This ain't over, Reaper. Vic's gonna—" The crack of a shotgun cut through the night. Sister June stood in the broken window, her weapon aimed steady. "The police are 3 minutes out," she announced. "I suggest you boys leave while you can still walk." The two men backed away, Snake cursing as he clutched his bleeding arm. They peeled out of the parking lot, gravel spraying in their wake. Ryder didn't wait to see them disappear. He rushed back inside, where the twins were crying in the bathroom. "We have to go," I said, gathering their few belongings. "June, I'm sorry about the window." "Don't," she cut him off, already helping pack. "The Lord works in mysterious ways. Sometimes he uses broken windows to show us our path." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Ryder's record would make him look guilty. Assault charges, gang affiliations, a history of violence. They'd take the twins away, put them in the system where Vic could find them through corrupt officials. He scooped up Hunter and Mila, their small bodies trembling against his chest. "Thank you," he told June, "for everything." She pressed a bag of supplies into his free hand. "There's an old water tower, 10 miles east through the desert. The road's hidden, but it's there. Go with God, Ryder Cole." They slipped out the back just as red and blue lights began to flash at the motel's entrance. Ryder's Harley roared to life, the twins secured in the sidecar with blankets and supplies. They rode into the darkness, leaving the lights of civilization behind. The desert stretched endless and black around them, stars wheeling overhead. Ryder found the hidden road June had mentioned, little more than a trail between the cacti. The water tower appeared as a skeleton against the pre-dawn sky, its metal legs rising from the sand like an ancient guardian. He parked the bike behind the tower's base, using its bulk to shield them from the road. The twins were exhausted, their eyes heavy with interrupted sleep and fear. "Come here," he said softly, settling down with his back against one of the tower's legs. He removed his leather jacket, draping it over them as they curled against his sides. "Try to rest. I'll keep watch." As the sky began to lighten, painting the desert in shades of purple and gold, Ryder kept his vigil. His knuckles were split and swollen, his ribs ached from the fight, but physical pain was nothing compared to the weight in his heart. He'd sworn to protect these children, but his past had followed like a shadow, threatening to destroy the fragile trust they'd built. Hunter mumbled in his sleep, pressing closer. Ryder looked down at their innocent faces, so much like Tanya's when she was young, before the life he'd led had touched her. Dawn broke over the desert, and still he watched, a broken angel standing guard over his second chance at redemption. The desert sun beat down mercilessly as Ryder guided his Harley along the back roads, keeping off the main highways where Vic's men might be watching. The twins dozed in the sidecar, their small bodies swaying with each turn. Every few miles he'd glance down at them, still amazed at how quickly they'd come to trust him. "We're gonna see an old friend," he explained when they finally stirred. "Name's Daryl. He's got a place where we can lay low for a bit." Mila rubbed her eyes. "Is he nice like Sister June?" "Well," Ryder chuckled. "He's grumpier, but he's got a good heart. Used to fix bikes with me back in the day." They rode until sunset, stopping only for bathroom breaks and water. When darkness fell, Ryder pulled off onto a patch of desert, far from any roads. He couldn't risk a motel tonight. Too exposed, too many cameras. "Camping time," he announced, helping them from the sidecar. "You kids ever sleep under the stars?" Hunter shook his head, but his eyes sparkled with excitement. Ryder showed them how to gather brush for a small fire, careful to keep the flames low so they wouldn't draw attention. He heated up some canned beans he'd grabbed from June's supplies, serving them in paper cups. "Mommy Tanya used to sing to us," Mila said suddenly, watching the flames dance. "When we were scared." Ryder's throat tightened. "Yeah? What did she sing?" The twins began humming a familiar tune. "Amazing Grace," the same lullaby he used to sing to Tanya when she was little, before everything went wrong, before the gangs and drugs destroyed their family. "I know that one," he said softly, and began to sing. His voice was rough from years of disuse, but the twins didn't seem to mind. They leaned against him, joining in with their small voices. Above them, the stars emerged like diamonds scattered across black velvet. "Look," he pointed upward. "See those 3 bright ones in a row? That's Orion's belt. And over there, that's the Big Dipper." They spent an hour counting stars, making up stories about the constellations. For a moment, Ryder forgot about Vic, forgot about his guilt. He remembered teaching Tanya about the stars, remembered when hope still lived in his heart. Dawn found them approaching Tucson's outskirts. Daryl's scrapyard sprawled across 10 acres of sun-baked earth, surrounded by a high chain-link fence topped with razor wire. Old cars and machinery created a maze of rust and metal, perfect for hiding. Daryl met them at the gate, his weathered face creasing with concern. "Heard you were causing trouble again, Reaper." His eyes softened when he saw the twins. "These must be the little ones June called about." Inside the yard, Daryl led them to an old school bus he'd converted into a makeshift living space. "Ain't much, but it's off the ground and out of sight." While the twins explored their new shelter, Daryl cleaned Ryder's cuts from the motel fight. "Vic's gotten worse," he said quietly. "Running girls across the border, dealing with cartels. Word is your Tanya stumbled onto something big. Records, maybe photos. That's why they're after these kids." Ryder's fists clenched. "She tried to stop them, didn't she? My baby girl died trying to save these children." "She became the woman you should have been," Daryl said bluntly. "Question is, what are you going to do about it now?" Inside the bus, Hunter and Mila had fallen asleep on the worn bench seats, exhausted from their journey. Ryder watched them breathe, thinking of Tanya, of redemption. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he'd memorized years ago. It rang 3 times before a gruff voice answered. "Agent Rowe." "It's Reaper." Ryder took a deep breath. "Remember that favor you said you owed me? Time to collect." There was a long pause. "You're ready to talk about the Iron Vultures?" "More than talk. I've got proof of their trafficking operation. But I need protection. Not for me. For 2 kids Tanya was protecting." Rowe's voice sharpened with interest. "Your daughter? The one who died?" "She found something on them. Something big enough that Vic's hunting these children personally. I need your help, Matt. For Tanya." "A sting operation takes time," Rowe warned. "Days to set up, get approval, position our people. Can you stay hidden?" Ryder looked at Daryl, who nodded firmly. "Yeah, we've got a safe place." "Don't move," Rowe instructed. "Don't call anyone else. I'll contact you when everything's in place." The call ended, and Ryder felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Finally, a chance to make things right, to honor Tanya's sacrifice. But as night fell over the scrapyard, a familiar dread crept back. Daryl was checking the perimeter when he spotted it. Headlights sweeping along the access road, too soon to be Rowe's people. Through the fence's metal links, multiple vehicles approached through the darkness, their engines growling like hungry predators closing in for the kill. The twins slept on in the bus, unaware. Ryder stood in the doorway, his hand on his revolver, knowing the night was far from over. The crunch of tires on gravel grew louder. Ryder's heart pounded as he watched Snake step out of a black pickup truck, followed by 4 more Iron Vultures. They carried flashlights and guns, spreading out across the scrapyard's entrance. "Come on out, Reaper!" Snake's voice echoed through the maze of metal. "We just want to talk." Ryder turned to the twins, who were now wide awake and trembling. "Under the bus," he whispered, helping them crawl through the emergency exit. "Stay quiet, no matter what happens." Hunter grabbed his sleeve. "Don't leave us." "I'll be right here," Ryder promised, tucking them beneath the chassis where old tarps and shadows would hide them. "Remember what Mommy Tanya taught you about being brave?" They nodded, clutching each other tight. For the first time since Tanya's funeral, Ryder felt the urge to pray. He wasn't even sure he remembered how. "God," he whispered roughly, "if you're listening, protect these kids, please." Daryl appeared beside him, shotgun in hand. "I've got the west side," he muttered. "Like old times, eh?" "This isn't your fight," Ryder protested. "Those babies need both of us," Daryl said firmly. "Besides, someone's got to watch your stubborn back." Footsteps crunched closer. Flashlight beams swept across rusted car bodies and twisted metal. Ryder crouched behind an old Chevy, counting shadows. 5 men total, spreading out in a search pattern. A shot rang out, pinging off metal near Ryder's head. He returned fire, aiming low to wound rather than kill. Someone cursed in pain. "Found him!" Snake shouted. "Circle around!" Daryl's shotgun boomed from behind a stack of crushed cars, scattering 2 attackers. But Snake was clever, using the confusion to slip through the shadows. "Getting slow, old man," Snake taunted, suddenly behind Ryder. Just like your daughter was slow. Rage exploded in Ryder's chest. He spun, tackling Snake into a pile of scrap metal. They grappled in the dirt, trading blows. Snake's knife flashed in the darkness, scoring Ryder's arm. More gunfire erupted. Daryl cried out in pain. Through the chaos, Ryder heard tiny whimpers from beneath the bus, the twins trying to stay quiet despite their terror. Something inside him shifted. He couldn't let fear rule him anymore, not with innocent lives at stake. Ryder slammed Snake's knife hand against a metal beam, feeling bones crack. The blade fell. "You're finished, Snake," Ryder growled. "The FBI knows everything." Snake's eyes widened with real fear. 2 more shots rang out, and running footsteps scattered into the night. Snake scrambled away, clutching his broken wrist. "This ain't over," he shouted, but his voice shook. Ryder found Daryl slumped against a tire stack, bleeding from his shoulder. "Just winged me," the old mechanic grunted. "But we need to move. They'll be back with more men." Ryder helped Daryl up, then retrieved the twins from under the bus. They clung to him, shaking but unharmed. Snake's abandoned pickup truck sat running at the gate, their ticket out. "Sister June's church," Daryl said through gritted teeth. "She takes in women running from abuse. Got medical supplies, too." They piled into the truck, Ryder behind the wheel with the twins pressed between them. The headlights cut through darkness as they sped down empty desert roads, watching for pursuit. The church appeared like a mirage, a small white building with a crooked cross, surrounded by adobe outbuildings. June met them at the door, her lined face grave as she took in Daryl's wound. "Bring him to the infirmary," she ordered, leading them to a room filled with medical supplies. As she cleaned and bandaged Daryl's shoulder, her movements were sure and practiced. "I've patched up too many wounds like this," she said softly. The twins wouldn't leave Ryder's side, even after June offered them milk and cookies. They sat quietly while she worked, their small hands gripping his jacket. "You're carrying too much guilt," June said suddenly, fixing Ryder with her piercing gaze. "I see it eating at you, same as it did your Tanya, but guilt won't protect these children. Love will." "I failed her," Ryder's voice cracked. "How can I protect anyone?" "By forgiving yourself first," June replied. "God already has." Thunder rolled outside as night deepened. June gathered everyone in the small chapel, other women seeking refuge, their children, Daryl propped up in a pew. Lightning flickered through stained glass windows as she led them in prayer. "Join hands," she instructed. "We're all family here." Hunter and Mila took Ryder's rough hands in their tiny ones, bowing their heads like they'd done it 1,000 times. Their sweet voices rose clear and pure. "Thank you, God, for keeping our new daddy safe." The words hit Ryder like a physical blow. Tears spilled down his weathered cheeks as memories of Tanya flooded back. Her first steps, her laugh, the way she used to pray for him even after he'd given up on prayer himself. "Don't thank me," he whispered brokenly. "Thank her. Your mommy Tanya saved you both." Later, after the twins were tucked into bed, Ryder stood alone in the chapel. The wooden cross on the wall seemed to watch him, patient and eternal. Lightning flashed again, illuminating the simple altar. "Are you still listening?" he asked roughly. "After everything I've done, everything I failed to do?" Thunder answered, rolling across the desert like distant drums. Ryder stood in the silence that followed, waiting for something he couldn't name. Forgiveness, perhaps, or the strength to earn it. Dawn broke over the desert in gentle waves of pink and gold, washing across the whitewashed walls of Sister June's church. For Ryder, the morning light felt different somehow. Cleaner, full of possibility. He stood in the dusty yard, surveying the broken fence that lined the property. The wooden posts had weathered years of sun and storm, much like himself. With practiced hands, he gathered tools from his saddlebags, a hammer, nails, and wire he'd found in Daryl's truck. The familiar weight of work settled into his muscles as he began mending the fence, one post at a time. The repetitive motion soothed him, each strike of the hammer a kind of meditation. Hunter appeared beside him, small feet kicking up puffs of dust. The boy watched intently as Ryder worked, his dark eyes following every movement. "Can I help?" Hunter asked softly, reaching for a nail. Ryder's weathered face softened. "Sure, kid. Here's how you hold the nail steady, just like that." Together they worked through the morning, Hunter's tiny hands growing more confident with each post. When they finished, the boy beamed with pride at their handiwork. It wasn't perfect, but it was strong, like the bond growing between them. The smell of coffee and bacon drew them inside, where June had commandeered the church's small kitchen. Mila sat at the table, carefully setting out mismatched plates while humming a tune that sounded suspiciously like "Jesus Loves Me." "Well, look at my two handymen," June smiled, her eyes twinkling. "Breakfast is almost ready." Ryder found himself at the stove, muscle memory taking over as he cracked eggs into a pan. It had been years since he'd cooked for anyone but himself, yet here he was, making scrambled eggs just the way Tanya had liked them, with a pinch of pepper and lots of cheese. The kitchen filled with morning chatter and the clatter of plates. Daryl joined them, his injured arm in a makeshift sling, but his spirit undiminished. The twins giggled at his exaggerated stories about desert wildlife, while June topped off coffee cups and offered quiet prayers of thanks. "You know," June said, watching Ryder dish out seconds to the eager children, "you're good at this, being a father." The words caught him off guard, stirring something deep in his chest. Before he could respond, a commotion outside drew their attention. In the churchyard, they found an old bicycle that one of the shelter women had dragged out of storage. Hunter circled it curiously, while Mila clapped her hands at the prospect of a new adventure. "Chain's broken," Ryder observed, kneeling to inspect it. "But we can fix that, can't we, Hunter?" The boy's eyes lit up at the invitation. Together they set to work, Ryder's large hands guiding Hunter's smaller ones as they threaded the chain back onto the sprockets. He explained each step patiently, remembering how his own father had taught him about machines long ago. "See how everything connects?" Ryder demonstrated. "Each link has its purpose, just like people do." Hunter nodded solemnly, absorbing the lesson beyond its mechanical application. When they finished, the bicycle stood ready, its chain moving smoothly through the gears. The children's laughter echoed off the chapel walls as they took turns riding in the yard, Ryder keeping a steadying hand on the seat until they found their balance. Even June emerged from her duties to watch, her face soft with emotion. "A strange little family sent by grace," she murmured, standing beside Ryder. "The Lord works in mysterious ways." As the day stretched on, Ryder found himself making plans, speaking them aloud to June as they watched the twins play. "Maybe a small ranch," he mused. "Somewhere quiet with room for horses. Give them a normal life." "Normal is overrated," June replied with a knowing smile. "But love, that's what they need. And you've got plenty of that even if you don't know it yet." The peaceful afternoon shattered with the arrival of a black government SUV. Agent Rowe stepped out, his presence both reassuring and ominous. The twins instinctively moved closer to Ryder as the agent approached. "We're ready," Rowe said without preamble. "Big Vic's crew is planning a major shipment tonight. They'll be at the abandoned airstrip outside town. Perfect spot for an ambush." Ryder's jaw tightened. He'd known this moment was coming, but the weight of it still pressed heavy on his chest. "You'll get everyone?" All of them? With your testimony and the evidence Tanya gathered, they're finished. Roe's eyes softened slightly as he glanced at the twins. You're doing the right thing, Cole. The sun was beginning its descent when Ryder prepared to leave. He knelt before the twins, their small faces serious as they studied him. I have to go help some people, he explained gently. Sister June will keep you safe until I come back. Promise? Hunter's voice wavered, slightly. Cross my heart, Ryder replied, drawing the motion over his chest. June stood in the doorway, her presence steady and reassuring. We'll be right here, praying for your safe return. The twins hugged him fiercely, their tiny arms barely reaching around his waist. As he mounted his motorcycle, their eyes followed his every move, trust warring with fear on their young faces. The engine roared to life, and Ryder began to pull away. Behind him, Mila's voice carried clear and strong across the yard. Come back, Daddy Ryder. The words echoed in his heart as he rode toward the setting sun. The sky blazed in spectacular shades of red and gold, painting the desert in fierce, bloody hues. His shadow stretched long behind him, reaching back toward the church, toward home. The abandoned airstrip stretched before them like a concrete scar in the desert, illuminated by the pale glow of a 3/4 moon. Ryder's boots crunched on loose gravel as he dismounted his Harley, scanning the shadows between the derelict hangars. Agent Roe parked the unmarked vehicle 50 yards back, keeping his distance as planned. Remember, Roe had instructed earlier, just keep him talking. The team's in position. The wind whistled through rusted metal, carrying the scent of creosote and dust. Ryder's fingers twitched near his hip, where his revolver sat concealed beneath his leather jacket. The angel wings on his vest seemed to weigh heavier tonight. Headlights pierced the darkness as 3 motorcycles roared onto the strip, followed by a black SUV. Big Vic Carson emerged from the vehicle, his imposing frame casting a long shadow. The years hadn't changed him much, same slicked back hair, same cold eyes that never quite matched his easy smile. Well, well, Vic drawled, spreading his arms wide. The prodigal brother returns. Getting sentimental in your old age, Reaper? Ryder kept his voice steady, though his heart hammered against his ribs. Just want to talk, Vic. About Tanya. About making things right. Right? Vic's laugh was sharp as broken glass. That what you call stealing from your own brothers? Running to the feds? He circled Ryder slowly, boots scraping against concrete. You always were soft when it came to that girl, even after she betrayed us. She was trying to save lives, Ryder growled. Those children you were trafficking. Business is business, Vic cut him off. But family is sacred, and she forgot that. He reached into his jacket, pulling out not a weapon, but a photograph. The image made Ryder's blood run cold. The photo showed Sister June's church, taken recently. Through one of the windows, he could make out the twins playing in the chapel. You think you can outsmart me? Vic's smile turned predatory. I already found your little angels. He tapped the photo. Cute kids. Be a shame if something happened to them. The world seemed to tilt beneath Ryder's feet. He lunged forward with a roar, but Vic was ready. The first shot cracked through the night air like thunder. Ryder dove behind a stack of old oil drums as bullets sparked off metal. Agent Roe's voice shouted commands somewhere in the chaos, but the FBI's carefully laid trap had sprung too late. Through the gunfire, Vic's laughter echoed across the airstrip. Better hurry, brother, he called out. Fire has a way of purifying sin. Ryder caught glimpses of the firefight, FBI agents emerging from cover, Vic's men scattering like cockroaches. But none of it mattered now. The church was defenseless, And the twins. He spotted one of the gang's motorcycles, keys still in the ignition. The owner lay sprawled nearby, courtesy of Agent Rowe's marksmanship. Ryder made his decision in a heartbeat. "Cole, wait!" Rowe shouted, but Ryder was already moving. He sprinted for the bike, bullets kicking up dust around his feet. The engine roared to life beneath him as he kicked it into gear. Behind him, Vic's voice carried over the chaos. "Run all you want, brother. You can't save them all." The desert night swallowed him whole as he pushed the motorcycle to its limits. The wind tore at his face, but he barely felt it. His mind raced faster than the engine, remembering June's quiet strength, the twins' innocent trust. He'd promised to protect them, and he'd led the wolves right to their door. Miles away, at the church, Sister June stood at the kitchen window washing dishes when she felt it, that peculiar stillness that sometimes preceded disaster. Her hands stilled in the soapy water as she listened to the night. The lights flickered once, twice. Then darkness crashed down like a wave. The first window shattered in the chapel, followed by the splintering crack of the front doors being kicked in. June moved swiftly through the shadows, her heart steady despite her fear. She'd faced evil before. It held no mystery for her anymore. "Hunter, Mila," she called softly, finding the twins huddled in the hallway. "Come with me, quickly now." She led them to the cellar door, hidden beneath an old rug in her office. The children descended the narrow stairs without question, trust overwhelming their fear. June followed, pulling the rug back in place above them. In the darkness of the cellar, she gathered the twins close. "Remember what I taught you about being brave?" she whispered. They nodded against her shoulders as boots thundered overhead. "The Lord is my shepherd," June began to pray, her voice barely a whisper. "I shall not want—" The twins joined in, their small voices steady even as smoke began to seep through the floorboards above. "He maketh me to lie down in green pastures." Somewhere above, glass shattered and hungry flames began to devour the old wood of the church. Heat pressed down through the ceiling as June continued her prayers, shielding the children with her body. "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." The smoke grew thicker, but June kept praying, kept the twins focused on her voice, rather than the growing inferno above. Her faith had never wavered in 68 years. It wouldn't fail her now. Through the cellar's tiny window, an orange glow painted the desert night. The fire spread quickly through the old church, feeding on decades of sun-dried wood. Soon, the whole building would become a beacon in the darkness. Miles away, Ryder's borrowed motorcycle ate up the desert road, pushing past 100 miles per hour. His eyes fixed on the horizon where an ominous glow began to stain the sky. The headlight cut through the darkness like a blade, leading him toward what he feared most, and what he knew he had to face. The past was burning behind him, and the future blazed ahead. All that mattered now was the space in between, where innocence waited in a burning cellar and redemption hung by a thread as thin as a prayer. Ryder's stolen motorcycle crashed through the church's wooden gate, splintering it to pieces. Orange flames lit up the night sky, turning the sacred ground into a vision of hell. Thick smoke rolled across the grounds like an evil fog. His heart pounded as he killed the engine, drawing his revolver in one fluid motion. Through the haze, he spotted 3 of Vic's men near the burning chapel. They hadn't noticed him yet. Moving quickly, Ryder found the building's electrical panel and smashed it with the butt of his gun. Darkness swallowed everything except the fire's glow, throwing the attackers into confusion. "What the hell?" one shouted. "Who killed the lights?" Ryder moved like a ghost through the smoke. His years as an outlaw had taught him how to hunt in darkness. The first man went down with a crushing blow to the throat. The second managed to fire once before Ryder's fist connected with his jaw, dropping him cold. The third tried to run but caught a bullet in the leg. "Where are they?" Ryder growled, but the man just whimpered. Inside the burning church, the heat hit him like a wall. Flames crawled up the walls while black smoke churned near the ceiling. He dropped low, searching room by room until he found Sister June collapsed in the hallway. "June." He shook her shoulder. Her eyes fluttered but didn't open. Scooping her up, he carried her outside to safety. She coughed weakly as he laid her in the grass. "The children," she whispered. "Cellar." Ryder charged back into the inferno. The smoke was thicker now, stinging his eyes and burning his lungs. He heard it then, Myla's frightened cry, muffled but clear enough to follow. He found the office, throwing aside a burning rug to reveal the trap door. Just as he reached for the handle, a gunshot cracked through the roar of flames. White-hot pain blazed across his left arm. "Should have known you'd come running," Big Vic's voice came from behind him. "Always trying to play the hero." Ryder turned slowly. Vic stood in the doorway, pistol aimed steady despite the chaos around them. His face was lit by the hellish glow of the fire, twisted with hate and something like joy. "They're just kids, Vic," Ryder said. "They're leverage," Vic snarled, "just like their mama was." Rage exploded in Ryder's chest. He launched himself at Vic with a roar that drowned out the flames. They crashed into the wall, trading brutal blows. Vic's gun went flying. Blood ran down Ryder's arm where the bullet had grazed him, but he barely felt it. Vic was younger, stronger, but Ryder fought with the fury of redemption. He caught Vic with a devastating right hook, then grabbed him by the throat. With all his strength, he drove Vic backward into a burning support beam. Vic screamed as flames caught his jacket. He thrashed wildly, but Ryder held him there, watching as fire consumed his former brother. Only when Vic stopped moving did Ryder let go. The trapdoor creaked as he yanked it open. Smoke poured down into the cellar where Hunter and Myla huddled together, tears cutting clean trails through the soot on their faces. "Cover your mouths," he ordered, gathering them both in his arms. The ceiling groaned overhead. The whole building was about to come down. Ryder ran, shielding the twins with his body as burning debris rained down around them. They burst out of the church just as the roof collapsed with a thunderous crash. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The night went suddenly still, as if holding its breath. The only sound was the crackle of flames and the twins' soft sobs. Ryder's legs gave out. He sank to his knees in the grass, still holding Hunter and Myla tight against his chest. They clung to him, their small hands fisted in his shirt. "You came back," they cried together. "You came back." Tears streaked down Ryder's smoke-stained face as he held them closer, knowing he'd never let go again. The steady beep of a heart monitor pulled Ryder from darkness. His eyelids felt heavy, like they were weighed down with sand. The sharp smell of antiseptic filled his nose, and something warm pressed against his right hand. Slowly, carefully, he opened his eyes. Sunlight streamed through hospital blinds, painting stripes across crisp white sheets. His left arm was wrapped in thick bandages, and his chest ached with every breath. But what made his heart swell was the sight beside him. Hunter and Myla curled up in a large hospital chair, fast asleep. Their small hands clutched his bigger one, refusing to let go even in sleep. "Welcome back," a familiar voice said softly. Ryder turned his head to see Sister June in the doorway of his room, sitting in a wheelchair. She looked tired but alive, with only a few bandages visible under her hospital gown. Her eyes sparkled with their usual wisdom, as she wheeled herself closer. "The children haven't left your side for 3 days," she said. "The nurses tried to make them go to the waiting room, but they threw such a fuss that the doctor gave them special permission to stay." Ryder tried to speak, but his throat felt like sandpaper. June poured him a cup of water, helping him take small sips through a straw. "Easy now," she cautioned. "You inhaled quite a bit of smoke." "You saved them," he finally managed to whisper. June shook her head. "No, Ryder. You did. You saved all of us." A knock at the door drew their attention. Agent Rowe stood there, looking more human in casual clothes than his usual suit. He carried a thick manila folder under one arm. "Good to see you awake," Rowe said, pulling up a chair. "We've got some news you'll want to hear." The twins stirred at the new voice, but didn't wake. Ryder squeezed their hands gently as Rowe opened the folder. "Thanks to the evidence Tanya gathered, plus your testimony and the raid at the church, we've dismantled Big Vic's entire operation," Rowe explained. "Found ledgers, shipping manifests, names of corrupt officials, everything. The trafficking ring is finished." Ryder's chest tightened. "And Tanya?" "Her name's been cleared completely," Rowe said softly. "We found proof she was working to expose them from the inside. She died trying to save these kids and bring down some very bad people. She was a hero, Ryder." Tears slid down Ryder's weathered cheeks. All these years he'd carried the weight of believing he'd failed his daughter. Now that weight lifted, replaced by something that felt like grace itself. The next week passed in a blur of recovery. The twins spent every day with him, sprawled on his hospital bed with crayons and paper. They covered his walls with drawings, motorcycles with angel wings, 3 stick figures holding hands under a bright sun, and hearts in every color imaginable. "Look, Daddy Ryder," Mila would say, holding up each new masterpiece. "It's us." The word daddy still made his heart skip a beat, but in a good way now, like a wound finally healing properly. June visited daily, wheeling between their rooms as she got stronger. She brought books to read to the twins and quiet prayers for Ryder's soul. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence, watching the children draw. When the doctors finally discharged him, June had a surprise waiting. "The church owns a small house on Sycamore Street," she explained. "It needs some fixing up, but it's yours for as long as you need it." The house was modest but solid, with 3 bedrooms and a small yard. The twins ran from room to room, claiming spaces and planning where their toys would go. Ryder walked slowly with a cane, each step painful but purposeful. The physical therapist said he'd need weeks of work to regain his full strength, but he didn't mind. Every step felt like moving toward redemption. That first night in their temporary home, as Ryder tucked the twins into their new beds, Mila asked their usual question. "Can we say prayers?" But this time, instead of letting them lead, Ryder cleared his throat. "Dear God," he began hesitantly, his gruff voice gentle in the darkness. "Thank you for these children. Thank you for June, and Agent Rowe, and all the people who helped us. Thank you for showing me that it's never too late to start over. And thank you for Tanya, for letting her spirit live on through these little ones. Amen." "Amen," the twins echoed, snuggling under their covers. Ryder kissed their foreheads, then limped to the doorway. He paused there, watching their peaceful faces in the soft glow of their nightlight. For the first time in years, his heart felt truly at peace. The summer breeze carried the scent of fresh paint and new beginnings across the rebuilt chapel grounds. 6 months of hard work had transformed the charred ruins into something beautiful, a gleaming white sanctuary that seemed to catch and hold the sunlight. Ryder stood on the freshly laid path, his cane forgotten at home weeks ago, watching volunteers set up tables for the church picnic. The new chapel wasn't exactly like the old one. It was bigger, with a community center attached where Ryder now spent his days teaching troubled teens how to rebuild motorcycles. The program had started almost by accident, a couple of local kids hanging around while he fixed up old bikes to sell for charity. Now it was official, complete with tools donated by local shops and a waiting list of young people eager to learn. "Daddy Ryder," Hunter's voice carried across the lawn as he ran toward him, Mila close behind. Their dark skin glowed with health, their eyes bright with the security of knowing they were loved. They wore their Sunday best, Hunter in pressed khakis and Mila in a yellow dress that matched the wildflowers dotting the grass. Sister June wheeled herself along behind them, her silver hair catching the light. Though she'd mostly recovered from the fire, she preferred the chair for longer distances. "These two insisted on helping me arrange the dessert table," she called out, her eyes twinkling, though I suspect they were more interested in taste testing than arranging. Ryder laughed, a sound that came easily these days. "Is that right?" He ruffled Hunter's hair as the boy hugged his leg. "And how many cookies did you arrange into your stomach?" "Only 2, Hunter protested, giggling. "Grandma June said we could." The title Grandma June had stuck naturally, just as Daddy Ryder had. Their little family might not look conventional, but love had a way of making its own rules. The picnic buzzed with activity as church members spread checkered blankets on the grass and unpacked baskets of food. Some of Ryder's students from the bike program helped set up games for the younger kids, their once sullen faces now bright with purpose. Inside the chapel, Ryder's old biker vest hung framed near the entrance, a testament to transformation. The angel wings that had once marked him as an outlaw now served as a different kind of symbol. Beside it hung photographs. Teenagers proudly displaying their restored motorcycles, charity auction successes, and one special picture of Tanya that June had kept safe all these years. Mila tugged at Ryder's hand, pulling him toward a blanket spread beneath an old oak tree. Her small face turned serious as she climbed into his lap, something clearly on her mind. "Papa Ryder," she said softly, playing with one of his shirt buttons. "I remember something Mommy told me once." Ryder's heart squeezed at the mention of Tanya. "What's that, sweetheart?" "She said angels cry when someone gets saved." Mila looked up at him with those wise eyes that seemed to see straight through to his soul. "Did you make the angels cry?" The question hit him like a gentle thunderbolt. Memories flooded back, of darkness and redemption, of grace found in the most unlikely places, of a hardened heart softened by 2 children's love and an old nun's unwavering faith. Tears welled in his eyes as he hugged Mila close. "Yeah, sweetheart," he whispered, looking up at the clear blue sky. "I think we all did." Church bells began to ring, their clear tones carrying across the grounds as people gathered for the blessing before the meal. Laughter and conversation filled the air, a joyful noise rising toward heaven. June wheeled closer, Hunter perched on her lap, both of them smiling at the sight of the tough ex-biker cradling his little girl. Sunlight spilled through the clouds in bright golden rays, like tears of joy from above. Ryder held Mila tighter, marveling at how far they'd all come. The angel wings in the chapel caught the light, throwing shadows that danced across the floor like promises kept and prayers answered. In that moment, surrounded by his unlikely family and the community that had embraced them all, Ryder understood something profound. Even the darkest hearts could shine again, reflecting the light of grace like new fallen snow. Thank you for listening. Stories connect us in the most unexpected ways. If you felt that spark today, make sure you're subscribed. I share a new one daily, and the next might change your day.